What's up, y'all? There's going to be a lot of people that you're not going to believe what I'm getting ready to say, but it is the truth. There are tons of black inmates in the federal prison system, right? The Federal Bureau of Prisons that absolutely love Donald J. Trump. Now, you don't need to clean out your ears. There's no wax in your ears. You don't need to shake your phone because you're like, I don't believe he said what he said. But believe it or not, there are tons, I'm not going to say all, but there are tons of black inmates in the federal prisons that tell their family members to vote for Donald Trump, support him. Now, I don't know if they tell them to wear the MAGA hat and all that, but I've talked, I don't know how many black folks, I'm talking about black inmates from California, the West Coast, the East Coast, the Midwest, down South, all of that. And they literally tell their family members and loved ones, y'all need to vote for Donald Trump. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. I feel like it's, I guess germane to what's going on in the current events. But as you've seen in the thumbnail, right, you got Harry O, right? He was the either founder or co-founder of Death Row Records. Well, recently, I'm not going to play the video. I don't feel like trying to do all that technology stuff, but he recently endorsed Donald Trump. I think it might have been at the Republican National Convention or somewhere else on the road where he supported Donald Trump to talk about how he got out of prison because of Donald Trump. And that was true because that definitely sent shockwaves throughout. Let me back up. First, let me say I'm a private citizen. I do not represent any government entity in whole or in part. I'm just an idiot in law school, right? I'm just an idiot. I'm doing this by myself. So back to the program. So when they found out that he was going to be released, on the eve of Trump getting out, there was a lot of buzz within the different black cars, especially people that love music, because like, hey man, Harry O, he's getting ready to get out because he did a gang of time. If he didn't do 30 years, then he got really, really close to doing 30 years. So one of the reasons, but one of the main, well, I won't say one, but the reason why there are so many black folks that support Donald Trump that's in prison, it's because of the First Step Act. Now, I'm not going to go into all the specifics about the First Step Act. I am not a lawyer. I'm not providing you any legal advice, but I'll just give you a general understanding that with the creation of the First Step Act that was passed into law by Donald Trump, it was something that Jared Kushner, the son-in-law to Donald Trump, right? And I always say that when it comes to the justice system and the unfair treatment, nothing is really going to change until it affects the majority. I'm just being honest with you. So in this situation, Jared Kushner, his dad went to the federal prison for, I don't know, however long. And so it was his passion or his goal to try to help, change some of these unfair laws. So as a result of the First Step Act, there were a lot of inmates that were eligible for sentence reductions, with some, it ended up in immediate releases, and some people, they ended up, giving that life sentence up. Now, where I work, right, it would be a situation where, you don't call it, some people may say, yeah, I got a life sentence, but a lot of the OGs, they were like, yeah, man, I got that elbow. I dropped my elbow, that life sentence. So I'm going to give you a few instances, and I'm talking about, you got inmates, I kid you not, they had life sentences, or they had a few hundred years, or they might have had like 90 years. So it's crazy, but I'll give you the first example, right? There was this black inmate, and I went up to him one day, right? I mean, this dude's heavily decorated in the game. He's put in that work. So I just went up to him because I knew he had like 95 years. And it was crazy because back in the day with the feds, the majority of the vehicles used to do the mass incarceration concerning black inmates, it was guns and drugs. So whenever, say, you committed any robberies or things of that nature, they would stack the deck on you. So and if you had a gun involved in the crime, then that just added even more. And it's like you get more time because you had the gun than the actual charge, right? Or the actual, crimes you committed. So this dude had 95 years, and I noticed him. I watched him throughout, my time working. And over the years, he was solid. He seemed to be level-headed, things of that nature. So I just asked him, hey, man, how come you ain't gone crazy and just started eating your boo-boo, because you got 90 or 95 years? And so he was like, man, you can never lose hope. You can't lose hope. And so I never forgot that. I'm not going to lie. I got a good life lesson from an inmate about not losing hope, never give up, because you can apply those same principles out on the streets. You know what I'm saying? Even though the cops on the block in the prison, we still got to deal with life. We still got to deal with stuff. So a few years passed and then I ran into him. So I was like, hey, what up, man? You know, so he said my name, whatever. We chopped it up a few minutes and I was like, man, you still got hope? And he was like, man, I'm getting ready to go home. So y'all know me, I be talking crazy. I was like, man, if you don't stop lying. And he was like, nah. And he said he gave back I think 50 years or something to the government. And that was because of the First Step Act. And that's when I was like, you know what? Let me look into this, and then sure enough, you start seeing other people that had a gang of time. I'm talking about, now let me go back to this other dude, right? So he gave back 45 or 50 years. And then he only had to do I think at that point he had maybe another year or two to do. So he was always coming to me, hey man, I'm trying to get in different programs. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to show the courts that and he was already programmed to get involved in things. So I had no problem trying to get him in other programs, so he can get the certificates and help him with getting out. I do that for all inmates. It don't matter what skin color you are. I do it for all of them. That's just, I'm on that kind of time. That's what I do. I really try to help the inmates, right? So he ended up getting out and, just hearing through the grapevine, other inmates, he's doing really well. But there's been inmates that had this other dude. He had about the same, 90-something years. And he was involved in a few robberies in California. He had a firearm. But here's the kicker, right? Because the feds, woo-wee, I can tell you, man, it wasn't until I started working for the feds that I realized, and I'm keeping this real, because not only, do I have experience as a CO, but I'm a black man that grew up in the hood. I grew up around an environment, not in my house, but in the streets on the block, people selling drugs, doing all that stuff, the gang banging. But once I got into the feds, that's when I realized how easy it could have been for me to be in the federal prison, especially knowing that you got ghost dope. I'll explain that one day, but essentially ghost dope is just where, let's say somebody gets popped for something else. And so they'll lie to try to get out of it. And they'll say, hey, I sold, blah, 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 5 kilos of dope. So the feds, they'll pull out this imaginary calculator and they start calculating all this imaginary dope. There's no pictures, no surveillance, no evidence of it. And then dudes were still getting busted upside the head with life sentences. You know what I'm saying? That's ghost dope. Look it up. You might get something, because that's more of a slang prison term. But anyways, so, excuse me, man, I lost my spot. Hold on, let me think. Okay, yeah. So the dude, he had a gang of time. Now, in both instances, for the other inmate that I told you that gave up 45 or 50 years, and this black inmate I'm talking to you about, nobody was injured. They didn't fire their weapon. They didn't point it at nobody. They had it. And so just the way the laws were, you could get stacked up. Now, don't quote me on this. I'm just telling you what some of the inmates used to say, that let's say you get popped with a bank robbery or a convenience store robbery. If the feds charge you, right, you're going to get time for the actual crime itself. But then each other time that you do it and then you get caught, they tack on, I want to say he said another 25 years per occurrence after the first one. So that's why a lot of dudes in the feds be getting 90 years, 500 years, 700 years. I kid you not, man. It is crazy. So it wasn't until I started working in the feds that I realized, I could have had somebody that I went to school with or played sports with, and they could have been doing something that I had nothing to do with. But for them to try to get out of it, they could have lied on me. You know what I'm saying? And I could have been in a situation where I'm facing ghost dope charges. So you had a lot of black dudes that were in prison because of guns and drugs. And so with the First Step Act, it addressed some of the issues, not all of the issues, but it definitely, from what I understand, it addressed the stacking issues and it addressed some of the drug issues. And so there's other people this one dude, right? He did, I think he was close to 30 years already, right? He was out of LA. He grew up, I'll just say he just grew up in the LA area. So, I used to see him all the time. He was programming, he was doing his thing. And it was crazy because I was talking to him one day. We chopped it up talking about sports, politics on the street, not gang politics, but in the news with politicians, right? And then I didn't see anymore because, like, literally earlier that day, we were chopping it up. And then later on that day after chow, he went over and had to poke somebody up. And I was one of the dudes that broke it up. And it was just crazy because it was like, if you've ever been involved in breaking up a knife fight, things like that, or even a fight, right? Sometimes it can look like clothes just tumbling in the dryer and you can't necessarily tell who has the weapon initially. But in that morning, I was talking to the dude, and later on that afternoon, I'm on top of him, and then the other dude breaking it up because he poking him. You know what I mean? But he left to another facility. So I hadn't seen him for a while because obviously disciplinary. And then he ended up coming back, right? And so I ran into him. He pulled me over. Hey, you know, the courts hit me up, this, that, and the other. And I promise you, he had like 30 years. And now he's out. You know what I'm saying? It was part of the First Step Act. So I'm telling you, man, these black inmates, I know that goes against conventional wisdom, because here it is, you got these dudes, they're in prison, they're doing time, you know, they got the gang ties, the gang alliance, or they run in the streets, things like that. But when I tell you that those black inmates, they get on that phone, they call mama, mama, hey, it's MAGA time, I'm on that MAGA time, vote for Trump, I'm telling you. But it's not because they like specifically love his policies or they love his personality. It's because, and I have not independently verified this, but I have heard this from numerous black inmates from all over the country. And they've said that Donald Trump is the only president that has released so many black inmates. And the black inmates would clown Obama. And they was like, man, that ninja wasn't doing nothing. That MF ninja, he wasn't doing nothing for us. And Donald Trump, he the only ninja that let go of so many black folks from prison. I know some of y'all gonna be like, y'all gonna be crazy. Y'all, I can hear it. But I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Now, there's some dudes, and I'm not gonna say their name, and I've not reached out to them or anything, but there are some people that are out right now because somehow the algorithms, I came across, you know, different videos, and, you know, you got a lot of different prison videos, and there are dudes out right now that were heavy hitters in the feds. And, you know, either they was working on my detail or I just knew them from the yard or whatever. But you got dudes that was in prison, had life sentences, had that elbow or other stuff, and now they're out because of the First Step Act. And it seems like they've landed on their feet. I've seen a few of them doing interviews. And it was funny because I was scrolling down, you know, you see the thumbnails, and I saw this one dude, I'm not going to say the name or the channel, and I was like, wait a minute, is that so-and-so? And sure enough, it was him, and I watched the video, and he, you know, we used to have debates all the time about just different politics. Again, it's not the prison politics, we're about the streets or sports or social justice issues, things of that nature. So some of these YouTubers that y'all watching that gets a lot of likes and views and all that stuff, some of them dudes I know because they've walked the yard where I've worked. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure this time around, I would imagine, now I ain't been to work in a while because I got hurt getting involved in the South Side, is crushing somebody off the yard. So I haven't been in a while. So I don't know what the sentiments are, but I would imagine that they're probably still telling them, hey man, vote for Trump, man, get him in, get him in. And I can understand, you know what I'm saying? If I've been locked up for many, many years and, you know, you've tried, because some of these dudes, they petition the courts all the time. You have some inmates, they'll go to the law library or the legal library and they'll type out their things, or they'll pay dues to type stuff out because they're trying to get back in the courts to get that action. And a lot of people just simply fail. But when that First Step Act came out, it revived life into people. And one of the things too is, if there's no incentive for inmates to take part in different programs that can obviously help them, but kind of prepare them to go back out in the streets, if there's no incentives for them to do these classes and take part in these programs, they're not going to do it. Especially if you got a lifer. What do you look like? Hey man, I know you got life. I know you're never going to get out of prison and you ain't never going to be with a woman again, but come on over here, man, and take this class. It'll put a warm feeling in your heart, right? It don't work like that. But with the First Step Act, I promise you, I would have inmates stalking me. I promise you, they would stalk me to sign up for different classes because they're trying to, you know what I'm saying? I got a pathway possibly to get home. Let me get on this. Let me slide over in this class, slide over to that class. And it's real. So there have been some benefits for people concerning the First Step Act. And quite frankly, I know it goes against conventional wisdom again, but those black inmates, they love Donald Trump. Now, I know not all of them. And I would say, I don't know if I could come up with a certain age range, but I would say definitely the youngsters that just came in that, you know, they haven't really done much time and they still got to go through their process of growing up in the system. A lot of them, they probably, they ain't studying Trump, this, that, and the other. But for the other people that's been down for a while, they might have some gray hair in their head or their beard, or even if they don't have gray hair, maybe they've been locked up for a while. They've been petitioning, and there are some legal beagles. Now, there is this one legal beagle, right? I'm not going to say his name, but he's legit. Now, he transferred somewhere else. I ain't going to say where, but he transferred somewhere else. But even with him, and I hope he does get out one day, man. That dude, he has a life. I ain't going to go into all these details, but he has a life sentence for something that, it's crazy because when you learn how the feds work and things like that, you're just like, dang, how'd you get that, right? But even though he has a life sentence, when he was on the yards that I was on, he was helping a lot of inmates under the First Step Act. And I promise you, like, I would see the inmates coming up to him all the time, like telling them, and sometimes they would come up to me, right? Now, if I was a rookie, you know, the inmates, they're not going to talk about their cases to me. They're not going to say, hey, man, I'm about to go home, this, that, and the other. But with me, you know what I'm saying? They know what kind of time I'm on. They know I'm going to do my job. If I got to, pull out that spray, if I got to get on you because something's going on, I'm going to do that. But outside of that, I'm not trying to be in no crazy time. I ain't trying to be on no RoboCop time. So a lot of the dudes, they would come up to me. Hey, man, guess what? This going on. Hey, man, I need to make some copies. Or, hey, man, can you talk to so-and-so? I need to get these certificates straight. Because, the legal beagle, he would get back there in the courts and he would get people some action under that First Step Act. So I've seen all the way from people having a life sentence being dropped to like 30 years or 25 years. And then obviously for some of them, that ends up being an immediate release because they've already done that time plus some, right? And then you have some just outright immediate releases. And then you have some people that had a life sentence and then it got reduced. And then they still got to do a few years. But, they can do that standing on their head because they've already done 25, 30 years anyways. So what's another 3-4 years if you know what I'm saying, for a fact that you're going to go home? So I'm not going to go on too long with this, but I definitely wanted to do this video. There's a lot of doom and gloom talk, and, I have my own personal opinions about the incoming administration and, these people that are being picked for, his cabinet. But definitely I want to talk about this from the prison aspect. Now, I can't speak on the state prison stuff and all that because I have no idea. But definitely for the federal prison, a lot of inmates, tons of black inmates, they love Donald Trump. And again, it's not because they think he's the right person for the country. It's not because they feel like his policies are the best in the world. It's just simply because, in the words of what the black inmates will say, Donald Trump be letting them ninjas out. He said he ain't not he, but he was like, there's never been another president since they've been down that let so many ninjas out. Now, obviously, I'm sure you can tell what I mean when I say ninja, right? But anyways, that's about it. What am I? I'm almost at 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm almost at 20 minutes. So sorry, man, that I didn't get to put out another video between the last one that I did. But shout out to everybody, man. Let me do it the right way. You guys, y'all been showing some love. Right now, as I do this video, I'm at 4,999 subscribers. Just maybe like a month and some change ago, I was like at 3,500, right? So I've been putting out some decent content. I can't put out as much stuff as I would like, because life is just lifing. Life is just busting me upside the head to the white meat. And so, I have to adjust. I got to deal with that, and I got to keep going. I got to keep trucking along. So I appreciate everybody that's liked it, disliked it, people that shared, commented, subscribed, all you guys, no matter what. I support. I don't know. I can't even talk, man. I don't mean to say I support. I meant to say I really, truly love and appreciate the support that you guys are giving me, because trust me, the best is yet to come for this channel, because I'm telling, it's just a matter of time. And I've even said this when I only had like 200 or 300 subscribers, right? The best is yet to come for this channel, right? I know other people that got the little, they got the bigger subscribers in the prison genre. They've kind of, not want to mess with me. They kind of feel like, nobody's ever really verbalized, but I've reached out to a few of them. And, they kind of slow with things, with a response. And so I stopped reaching out to people, because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just grow this channel. And when I do blow up, like Jamie Foxx would say, right? When I do blow up, you know what I'm saying? Don't come to all them channels that I reached out. Don't come back over here, because I can guarantee you all them channels that I reached out to, I am going to eclipse them. My story is just too unique. It is just way too unique. A black dude growing up in the hood, avoided going to jail, to prison, the crack and drug epidemic, you know what I'm saying? Making it out of all that stuff, going to college, getting my degree, going to law school, working in the prison as a black man, dealing with racism in the prison, and then soon to be an attorney to practice law. Yeah, I'm going to eclipse them. So I just appreciate the support that everybody has shown, whether it's been good or bad, because it's still helping me no matter what. So until the next one, man, holla at your boy.